The United States has always been a country composed of immigrants and a place of hope for them to attain a life worth living. In more recent times, we've seen how this has flourished through the emergence of the nation's first African American president, Barack Obama, and his initiatives like the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, or DACA program, which protected nearly 800,000 immigrants who were brought to the United States illegally as children, allowing them to live and work in the U.S. without fear of deportation and hopes of citizenship. It was Obama himself who reminded us in his farewell address that the stereotypes about immigrants today were said almost word for word about the Irish and Italians and Poles, who it was said were going to destroy the fundamental character of America. And as it turned out, these newcomers embraced this nation's creed and the nation was strengthened. However, in the wake of the 2016 election, there was a great shift in the public attitudes of the American people and the environment in which immigrants in the country had found themselves in. This shift was brought about by our current president, Donald Trump. Since the start of his campaign, when Trump announced his presidential candidacy on January 13 of 2005, immigration became one of the central issues in his campaign. When asked about his thoughts of immigration policy in Mexico, Trump replied with this statement: "When Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best. They're not sending you, they're not sending you. They're sending people that have lots of problems, and they're bringing those problems with us. They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists. And some, I assume, are good people." Like many of his statements, this generated great backlash and disenchantment from the immigrant population in America because it portrayed immigration in the southern border and its participants as something detrimental to the country, a completely different message than the one his predecessor left behind. This would be followed by instances like a political rally in Houston, where Trump characterized himself as a nationalist, undoubtedly a risky move, given the world's long history of association with racist ideologies and discriminatory and heinous acts like genocide throughout world history. Many believe that Trump is guilty of using race for gain, since he approached America's racial, ethnic, and religious divisions opportunistically to achieve his goals. While the president claims to be the least racist person you have ever met, critics who are familiar to his environment, like Jack O'Donnell, former president of the Trump Plaza Hotel and Casino, and the author of a novel, Trumped, the inside story of the real Donald Trump, his cunning rise and spectacular fall, have testified and witnessed how Trump has brought negative stereotypes of people of color in the workplace. Even as Trump labeled O'Donnell as a loser, he admitted to his claims in a Playboy interview when saying, "The stuff O'Donnell wrote about me is probably true." The effects of Trump's negative rhetoric have also affected the people closest to him in ways that support the critics' opinions. Geraldo Rivera, a roaming correspondent at large for Fox News and a longtime friend, has also come forward to share how his life has been negatively affected by his relationship with Trump. In an interview, Rivera said, "My friendship with the president has cost me friendships. It has cost me schisms in the family. My wife and I are constantly at odds about the president. I do insist that he's being treated unfairly. But the unmistakable words, the literal words he said, is an indication that the critics were much more right than I." The president's personal attitude may be one thing, but it begins to cause tangible issues for immigrants when it's applied to American immigration policies. One of these being the zero tolerance policy. Under this policy, the Department of Justice prosecuted all adult aliens apprehended crossing the border illegally, with no exceptions for asylum seekers or those with minor children. This was implemented on May 7, 2018, to discourage illegal immigration onto the United States and to reduce the burden of processing asylum claims that administration officials contended are often fraudulent. Although this only represented a higher level of enforcement of an existing statute, it opened a sense of anxiety for many immigrants, specifically those crossing the U.S.-Mexico border. Furthermore, the president's adamant intention to phase out Obama's DACA program brought more turmoil for immigrants since it took away hopes for future citizenship. Although these initiatives often target illegal immigration, the Trump administration has also launched projects that would affect immigrants who lawfully enter the country and hope to gain citizenship through naturalization. The ILRC, or Immigrant Legal Resource Center, stated that the Trump administration has launched a denaturalization operation that would strip a large number of Americans from their citizenship by discarding long-standing legal norms and protections. Since 2017, this operation has added U.S. citizens to its list of targeted individuals and has sent the message that no one is safe in America. Such an aggressive procedure has made many lawful permanent residents scared to pursue citizenship and fully engage in civil life. With a president who adamantly dislikes immigrants and is willing to limit immigration by pursuing such a nationalist vision, many immigrants fear their efforts and sacrifices would become obsolete. Around the country, there are many families who were affected by Trump's fear based narrative, one of which was my own. My name is Jose Carlos Aguilar Torres, and I was born in a small tourist town south of Mexico's capital called Chignahuapan, Puebla. Although my mother was born in Chicago, we lived in Mexico with my grandparents until 2008, when I was 8 years old. At this point, I was fortunate enough to legally move to Texas and become fully engulfed by American culture. I went through middle school and high school in Texas, cultivated many lifelong friendships, participated in sports and clubs, and began to identify as an American more than anything else. Once I had lived 5 years in the country, I was able to apply to become a lawful permanent resident and gain a sense of security in my newfound way of life. There were few instances where I was addressed with racial slurs, but I did not realize the amount of public hate towards immigrants like me until the 2016 election. Prior to this, my family could sympathize with President Obama, since, like us, he was an individual of color, and it brought a sense of safety to have someone like him leading the nation. However, the rise of Trump's campaign let us see a darker side of America in a much more public light. Trump's rhetoric and his criminalization of immigrants made the public assume that any immigrant was an illegal one, which often labeled individuals like me as an illegal, even though my family was American and I had gone through the proper legal procedures to gain the status I had in the country. Signature slogans of his campaign, like "Build a Wall," made me feel unwanted in the country, especially because this wall was to be built in the country's southern border. Seeing Trump signs in the streets and in the lawns of houses in my neighborhood made me question the thoughts of my community towards immigration as the air around me began to have a colder tone surrounding the issue. At the time of the election, I firmly believed that no individual with such an exclusive attitude towards others could become the president, but I was proven wrong. In my eyes, this changed what could have been a celebration into something that brought instability and doubt in my future. By this time, I had met all the requirements to become a citizen of the United States, but the culmination of negative attitudes towards immigrants and the Trump administration's narrow vision on immigration led me to believe that a single wrong in the eyes of the law could jeopardize my stay in the country. Even with no record of anything illegal in my status, the procedures towards my citizenship were defined by a lengthy process due to the numerous government shutdowns that the president caused during his efforts of building a wall. It was not until my second year of college, in 2019, the same year that my permanent resident card expired, that I was able to take my citizenship test in Dallas and pass it with ease. In this test, I was asked a series of questions about American history, questions about my own past, and I was asked to convey my understanding of the English language through a simple oratory and written test. Having lived in the country for about 10 years at this point, this test was something simple for me to complete, since American culture had become my own. On November 14th of 2019, I attended my oath ceremony at the Plano Center in Plano, Texas, and finally turned my dream of citizenship into a reality. During my long journey towards the school, the 2016 election and the Trump administration were the causes of my worries. The negative social attitudes they brought towards immigration and the reemergence of a nationalist vision for America made me hesitant about the process of becoming a citizen, both legally and socially. I was afraid that a minor slip up with the law could cost me everything, and that society would assume I was an illegal immigrant with no second thought. Now, as a citizen, I look forward to the life I can make for myself in a country I can call my own. A country where I hope immigrants feel safer in the future and more accepted in society. It's important to know that this country is built on immigrants, and that many of them, like me, are individuals who go through a lawful citizenship process and are as American as our neighbor. With the country in the hands of our current leader, I hope my story sends a message of hope for immigrants to know that their hopes can be reached in such a society, since being an American means more than what any racial divide can fathom. Those who live in America now have to face the truth about immigrants and think beyond the negative social structures that any leader might impose. As American citizens, we must believe in each other to rise above this prejudice and reaffirm the creed of those who founded this nation, a creed found at the core of every American whose story is not yet written, just like mine and the many more to come.